So there has been some rumors and talks and chats in the expert community um, in Central America about cost cutting in or reducing certain services in U.S. embassies in Central America, and of course not just in Central America but in the uh, in the rest of the world. Of course, as we all know, USAID, AID actually, USAID, which has been an agency that has been there for many decades, serving and helping, supporting and financing many projects in not just in Africa but Latin America, Asia, and different part of the world, especially in developing countries. Those services has been those aid, those help, I would say, from the taxpayers' money. I mean, United U.S. taxpayers' money for many years. It's been supporting um, people, going people in hunger. Basically, people, those most vulnerable people, like far, in the countryside where is always where devastation of different um, natural disasters, and even in areas where there is a dry land, drought, different um, different calamities, different natural disasters, like I said before, that has been striking a different part of the world. And of course, USAID has been in the forefront in in international. Not that US, just the US has been helping, but the European Union, the European community has been helping with different small projects for, especially for in the rural area, in education, financing small farmers, very small farmers come out of poverty actually. It's been very much praised. Agency that has been, of course, nothing is perfect. There's always there is always suspicious of some corruption going on in different levels, I guess, in different levels. But the the form of the audit goes for this agency is the same U.S. embassy, who has their check and balances, checking those agencies how they work in different part of Latin America, especially, and here in Central America has been one of those, um, countries. These 7 countries actually, not just Guatemala, Costa Rica. Even Costa Rica received some help from a USAID. So this has been really, for many people has been really a surprise for that. But this is the new U.S. policy. The government has been reducing cost at in different levels, not just in their foreign service, but also in mainland in the United States. There has been many federal employees, thousands of federal employees has been laid off recently in the last couple of weeks, and there's been some reduction in costs and expenses from the federal government in the United States mainland. So what's going to be for the there's been rumors about and chat in the expert community, especially the American expats in Central America, in Honduras, in different local and social media. We can see that it's possible that the U.S. embassies will be reducing also services. Of, Officially, nothing really going on yet. Of course, the new Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, was here like 3 weeks ago. He came to visit Panama. He was, he had a meeting with the Panamanian president and different officials. Also, he had a meeting with Salvadoran president, and they did sign some agreements, in different insecurities and what to do with the people who has been deported, and then they may use the jail system of El Salvador. And of course, they did sign some agreements in that regard. But talking about what if there's going to be a reduction of services, We don't know really yet. That's for sure. We're not really exactly sure what could be those reductions. But of course, people, from time to time, people, wonder, because remember that Central America has 7 countries, 45 to 50 million people roughly. And of course, when we say 45 to 50 million people, because we're not exactly sure how many people really presently live in Central America. Of course, we believe that around 4 to 5 million people live out of Central America. They have been they have they have been leaving the Central American, their own countries, to live in United States, Spain, and other South American countries, and Mexico too, to receive some, migrants, people, immigrating, moving to other parts of the world like Mexico too, and Europe, of course, especially Spain, because of the language, the same language that we speak with Spain, right? Which is Spanish, except for Belize, Belize, a small country with 400,000 people, a small country here in Central America. They were protected by the British, the United Kingdom. They just became independent in the early 1980s, not even 40 something years ago, that they became a new nation, a young nation in Central America. So that was like 40 some years ago. And then, of course, the United States also has an embassy in Belize. So there are 7 embassies all through Central America, all the 7 countries, from Belize, Guatemala to Panama, 7 embassies. And for 45 million people, think about that. Now, the Philippines has more than 100 million people, and they have only one embassy. Of course, they have offices in Dumaguete, offices in Cebu, consular offices, different consular offices in main cities like I mentioned, Cebu City. Dumaguete has a small, a person who represents the embassy, like an attaché, that take the business, take care of the businesses. I understand that. So by saying that, let's say that if you compare Mexico, for instance, Mexico has 130 million people, and they have only one embassy in Mexico City, and of course different consular offices in Guadalajara, in different state of the Mexico. They have consular offices in I believe in more than 6 states in Mexico. That's what we call. And Brazil, for instance, Brazil has almost 200 million people, and of course they have one only embassy and some consular offices in different cities, Sao Paulo, Rio de Janeiro. I mean, different cities of Brazil, attending American interests, and consular services for their citizens. Of course, the people, the expats living in Brazil are less than the expats in Mexico. In Mexico, there are close to, I think, 800,000 people, close to a million now. Close to a million U.S. American citizens live in Mexico as an expat, that people who live there. In Central America, I'm sorry, in Central America, of course, there are close to 500,000 people, half a billion people, I would say, right? I'm sorry, half a million people, not half a billion, half a million people, almost 500,000 expats who live in Central America. Now, of course, if we count the people who come for a season, right? We're talking about expats who live permanently, that they, or even both homes, that they even have their residences. They live permanently in Central America. Those expats, that's the amount, the numbers we're reaching. But if we can count other expats, part-timers are like backpackers, people who come for a season here, like every year they come for 4 months, 6 months. Of course, in different countries, like in Panama, American visiting Panama or coming as a tourist, they're allowed to stay there 180 days, which is 6 months. Costa Rica is the same way. Honduras, for instance, is 90 days. 90 days as a tourist. I mean 90 days basically you can stay before day 90. I mean, in 80 to 87, 18, 88 days you have to leave the country and of course come back. I mean, at least you can use do the passport, check out, and you can go 2 days for anywhere to another country and just come back the next day, basically. And that's what many people in Costa Rica do. That they come to Guanacaste, which is close to the Nicaraguan border, like just a few miles from the Nicaraguan border, and they come to beautiful Liberia, Tamarindo, all this beautiful Pacific side of and close to the Nicaraguan border. So there are beautiful resorts there, and what they do is that They when they even surfers, many thousands of surfers, backpackers of all kinds of backpackers from Canada, from the U.S., from Europe, they come to the area of the Guanacaste province, which is close to the Nicaraguan border. So they come to Nicaragua for a couple of days. They do the stamp of their passport that they came out of the country to Nicaragua, like, or to Panama too. I mean, they can go to fly in to Honduras, right? As long as they have the stamp, exit stamp, and then 2 days later you can come back again. So many people do that. Even digital nomad people, they do that. They work for close to 6 months before it expires, and they just go out of the country and just come back. But talking about the reduction of services, there's a good chance. I mean, that there's going to be. I'm just, this is just an assumption. There's not official, of course. Of course, the U.S. Embassy, they have the their own spokesperson who gonna, for sure they're gonna. What does it mean, the reduction of services? If and the possibility, who knows? One day maybe they just need one embassy in the whole Central America. Remember that in Central America there's 45 million people, and if they can just have an interest, just like a mission office, or interest office, or consular office in many of these countries, and just only one full embassy staff. That's always a possibility. That or maybe they can have an embassy, two embassies, maybe one in Costa Rica, which is a very important spot because there are over 120,000 American experts who live in Costa Rica. So it requires, of course, a full staff embassy. But then one in Guatemala who can attend maybe El Salvador and Honduras. Who knows? I mean, and the Costa Rican, the embassy in Costa Rica can attend Nicaragua, and can attend Panama, and of course Belize can be attended by a full. Remember the full U.S. embassy in Guatemala. Guatemala is one of the biggest and most populous country. I'm sorry. There are 16 million Guatemalans, right? So this is a big country. It's a big country by the number of their people, right? So demographically, Guatemala is the biggest one, of course, not by size of the land, the size of the country, but demographically is the most populous country, which is close to 17 million people in Guatemala. So by saying that, of course, there are many, what is the interest, remember that embassies are there to represent the country, the interest of the country, right? Where it's coming from. Like the U.S. Embassy in Central America, all the 7 U.S. embassies represent the interests of America. What is American, interests are in Central America, and of course there's a trade exchange, import and export. There's a very much trade agreements with Central America. In this case, CAFTA, right? Central American Dominican Republic, which is part of CAFTA. There are things that Central America exports to the U.S., and there are many things that the United States export to Central America. So there could be offices, only like offices maybe for commercial offices, like a business type offices, but of course with the rank of like a diplomat. Of course, these offices they could be consular offices to issue certain visas, but not like a full staff embassy, which is now the situation that in every one of these small countries in Central America there are full staff embassies. And of course, with the reduction of just the USAID offices, like in Honduras or Guatemala or other, all these countries, they have big office and big staff in the local U.S. embassies in these countries, in Central America. But with that reduction of employees, right? So of course there is already a reduction of people working for the embassies in each one of these countries, right? And of course there was a press release not long ago that all employees of the United States AID people anywhere in the world come back to the U.S. Of course, we're talking about U.S. citizens, come back to the U.S. mainland and come back to the United States, to the mainland, just to report, to have, I guess they're gonna have an assessment if they're gonna have some projects going, some not, maybe perhaps, but they're very much assessing the situation of what's going to happen with this agency. Basically, they're shutting it. I mean, it's been shutting it down. right? Well, there is a reduction of employees, but of course, um, most likely in the next few days we're gonna have another press releases from local embassies in Honduras, Guatemala, and different countries about what's going to be the future, right, for this agency. But and then it might follow other services too. We don't know. There are social security, for instance, there is one social security offices in Costa Rica that attends pension, people with pension, right, social security pension. Like I said before, in Costa Rica is the country that has more people with social security benefits in Central America, and they do have an office there. Of course, most likely that office is gonna be, still attend these people here in the expats in San Jose, Costa Rica, most likely, but perhaps in the expats living in other parts of Central America might gonna have to, go to Costa Rica, or maybe if there is gonna be reduction of other services, not just social security, but there was an immigration office in El Salvador too. Immigration, the ICE office, because the U.S. has different offices: commercial, immigration, social security, and import. Commercial offices for licensing and different interests. Of course, the cultural attaché, of course, the military attaché in each one of the countries. Of course, there is a military base in Honduras, for instance. They may keep, the military attaché, to have, different interests, of course, about drug enforcement, for instance, right? Different, situation with the violence in Central America, in certain areas of Central America, not in whole Central America, but with that possibility, there's always the chance of what's going to happen with all the the services that provides. Of course, we know that there's a reduction now. That's for a fact. For a fact, we know that there's a reduction of employees for a particular agency, which is the United States AID agency. And what other agency is going to follow? Well, there are different projects, going on, right? That's been sponsored by the U.S. Embassies locally that we don't know yet. Most likely we're gonna find out in the next few days. Things are moving really fast, and of course we're gonna be have open mind and open what. And we're going to be reporting, informing about this, the new whatever comes new in this issue of the services of the U.S. embassies in all Central America, going from Panama to Guatemala. Of course, that doesn't mean that the expats community is reduced. I haven't heard anything. I haven't on those chats and checking English speaking newspaper. They're in English reading. Newspapers and even social media. They haven't not even one child talk about people leaving Central America. People are not leaving. I'm talking about expats. Out of all those 500,000 expats who live in Central America, particularly in Costa Rica, Panama, and the rest of Central America, El Salvador. And instead of people leaving, there are more expats coming. There are more expats, more Americans and Canadians looking south now, especially in Canada. What's going on with Canada, right? Canada, there has been with the tariffs. There's different issues with tariffs. Those issues of tariff, Central America doesn't have it yet. The tariff is only for Mexico, Canada, and China, right? And they have suspended that. There have been some negotiations. Like I said before, this Secretary Rubio, the new Secretary of State, has been moving to Mexico, to Canada, to different, and they have been pausing. There's a pause. There's on hold for a month. They say, right? There's for a month of those tariffs with Canada and Mexico, right? So, but if that goes through, right, and even if it doesn't go through, either way, many Canadians are already taking keeping their eyes open to move to Central America. Here there was a report about Florida, for instance. We know that there are more than 1 million Canadians who bought property, who had been settling because of the weather, of course, in Florida, especially South Miami, South Beach, South Florida, which includes, of course, Dade County, Miami, the Pompano Beach area, Broward County, all this, because of the beautiful beaches and of course affordable housing. That's been going for Canadians settle in, living in, taking residence in Florida, particularly in South Florida. It's been years in the making, the last 20 years. I mean, South Beach, it's been said, I mean, it's public knowledge that Canadians are the major investors. One of the major investors, of course, now Chinese too, but Canadians and Europeans, but mostly Canadians have been investing in South Beach, like during the last 20 years. So, but now that with the issue of tariffs and things going on, apparently Canadians feeling the pinch a little bit about their patriotic thing going on with Canadians, and apparently there are a number of Canadians, at least in social media, you can see many of them are leaving Florida because, well, they argue that, well, now they have to they argue with the situation of tariffs and everything, and the feeling of patriotism about Canada, that they're going to be looking south, even deeper south now, south of what is south of Florida, Central America, of course. What is south of Mexico, Central America. So if it's not Mexico, for Canadians, of course, some Canadians are going to go to Mexico, right? Retirees, people with pensions, Canadians are big, I mean, they just like in the U.S., people above 55 and older, and many other not just 55 and older retirees, but digital nomads. There are thousands of them moving out from their, and reducing their own cost of living, looking for a better quality of life. Whether everything we have been saying, in our videos, right? But of course, Canadians are looking south of Mexico, not just south of the United States. Of course, they're leaving Florida, many of them, and now they're looking, of course, taking their investment, their property, whatever they have spent in Florida. I mean, taking it out. They're bailing out, and looking into perhaps Costa Rica, perhaps El Salvador. El Salvador is a big attraction at this moment. El Salvador has been, and they've been advertising. They have been in the world stage. El Salvador has been in the world stage. The new president has been meeting with people like Elon Musk. I mean, people with all these big billionaires. I mean, like with Microsoft chief, the other one, all these big tech chiefs. He's been meeting, with good and. This guy, the president of El Salvador, speaks good English. I mean, good English, and I don't know if probably a third language. So, but saying that, he's been meeting with Arab, with many of Arab head of state, for looking for investment. El Salvador is a very small country. Just one country in Olancho here in Honduras, one of the provinces in Honduras is almost the size of El Salvador, like the province of Olancho, it's called. So. But it's very interesting things happening in El Salvador. But of course, Costa Rica has the most, I would say, the reputation. They have built a reputation of being a safe country. They have better education. They have, better, not just education, but the country that has most capable engineers, especially in tech engineers. They've been preparing, engineers in technology and software engineers in Central America, the best ones, and also more, the amount of engineers and college educated with bachelor's degree, master's degree from their own, and high quality university Costa Rica has. Of course, Panama also, but El Salvador is getting there. I mean, all these rest of the countries, Honduras is getting there too, with good universities, high-tech, universities, private university that cost less than like 30% what you can pay in the United States, and maybe 50% of you can pay a high quality college, in San Jose, Costa Rica, good private college in San Jose, Costa Rica. You can pay half, maybe in Tegucigalpa, or half of it, half the cost what you can pay in Panama City even, right? So there is of course not a competition. We said every country has, they're looking for their best interest to to do the best for their people. I mean, there's very interesting things going on to improve the quality of life in Central America, so people can stay in their countries. There's no doubt, right? So By saying that, I would say that, well, if there is just to have a little conclusion of the issue of the reduction of in the diplomatic in the diplomatic services and the consular services in Central America, there is some reduction going on with the agency, the USAID that I just mentioned, and there will be most likely more. There will be most likely more, of course. But like I said before, these things that I'm bringing to these issues that I'm bringing to, it's not an official. I mean, of course, I have nothing to do with any embassy. I mean, Central America, of course, but their own embassy, they're gonna have their spokesperson, announcing if there are a reduction in services, in consular services or social security benefits. I mean, social security offices that you can talk to an officer like in Costa Rica. So if that's gonna be done, remotely to mainland USA, all those questions are going to be is still floating on the air, and of course there's going to be future announcement, and we're gonna have our eyes open to these new announcements of the U.S. embassies locally, wherever it might be, if it's Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador. So hopefully, we keep with the information up to date. We keep you up to date as things develops. So guys, thanks for watching. If you like, of course, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and if you like this kind of content, give us a thumbs up, and see you in the next video. Take care, and may God bless you all. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.